fear neither hardship nor darkness. A bygone time, unworthy of remembering. A dream, far too lucid.
Hello everybody, my name is Ludwig and this is Operator Overview. The operator I'll be reviewing is Młynar, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Młynar is a 6-star guard of the Liberator branch. Trait of the archetype, normally does not attack and has 0 block when skill is inactive. Attack gradually increases up to 200% over 40 seconds. Attack is reset when the skill ends. So this means Młynar needs time to charge up his potential and his attack. As you see in his base stats, he has very low base attack. This is increased over his trait, and then he can do a lot of damage when skill is active, but he needs to wait to be at his full potential. Besides that, his max HP is quite good. He has some resistance and he has decent defense, but as with his trait, he does not block or attack when he's off skill, so his block count 3 does not really matter until on skill. Other than that, he has pretty good stats. So moving on. Operator profile. Młynar is from the faction Kazimierz. I'm sorry for the pronunciation. I'm not a native Polish speaker, but I try. His operator description: a wanderer from a Kazimirian knight family. Młynar with his sword always resting by his side. His operator quote: he exhorts all to flee Kazimierz, yet never left himself. His profile: Młynar Neural, the former head of the Neural household and the uncle of operators Neural and Blemishine, has yet to receive a knight title of any kind. Roughly 2 months after the Kazimierz Major came to a close, he accepted Rhodes Island's invitation and is now assisting us with our affairs in Kazimierz. His character voice: Ian is Anthony Howe, and I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that, so I'm not gonna insult them by butchering their name. So moving on. Mwynar's backstory. The youngest son of Kirill, the Kazimierzian national hero, the uncle of Margaret Neural and Maria Neural, Blemishine, and cousin of Zofia Wishlash. Młynar also has an older brother named Schnitz and a sister-in-law named Jolanta, the parents of Margaret and Maria, who went missing under mysterious circumstances. Młynar searched in vain for years before reality forced him to give up his idealism and return to take care of his nieces, Margaret and Maria. This event, along with his father Kirill passing, broke his spirit. He became disillusioned with Kazimierz's current situation, where knights are seen as tools of entertainment for the masses instead of their protection. Ironically, he is a salaryman who serves the very system he despises. This is seen in his appearances in Maria Neural and Nearlight, and then he gets his own event and Obscure Wanderer later, when he becomes his playable debut. He once was a wandering knight errant roaming the Kazimierz countryside, assisting those who would be overlooked by the knights. He never was officially given a title, but was known informally as the Tenebrous Knight. Młynar, although has become cynical and lost much of the idealism in his youth, he may be roused once more to unsheath his blade and take action to protect others and his family from external influences, as seen in his event appearances. His debut event and banner, and his quote: he debuted in an Obscure Wanderer as a playable character, and his banner was Never Vowed. Moving on. Talents. Mwynar's first talent is Wanderer, which improves at potential 3. His attack increased to 110% plus 3 at pot 3 when attacking. If there are 3 or more enemies nearby, attack increase to 115% plus 3% and take 15% less damage. It is a nice increase to his attack, which is boosted if enemies are in his range with a little extra damage reduction. The range is from Mwynar's position 3 tiles above him, and then the 2 tiles next to him on the left and right of him, and 3 tiles below him. The problem is it can be difficult to get value out of due to enemies dying before getting close to him, which is it's likely. Most enemies that are in his range are probably going to be dead by the time you would get some use out of this, but it's a nice talent to have, so it's okay. His talent 2, Unmove, which improves at pot 5, more likely likely to be attacked while deployed. When any Kazimierz operator is attacked, reflect 15% of Mwynar's attack as true damage. Due to his high HP and overall stats, Taunt allows him to draw enemy fire, protecting your weaker units, and allows more flexibility to one's deployment order. He is also the first operator who can taunt enemies via talent instead of skill. This allows him, basically, when you deploy your operators, let's say you placed him first and then you placed a sniper. The sniper then would be, this is more notably like, an example would be in Near Light, where you have the archers, the Lazurite archers, and they will target basically whoever your last deployed operator is. But if you have Młynar, you can just place him down at the beginning and they'll actually focus fire him instead, which is great because if they focus fire your sniper, they're probably just gonna die. So overall, it's a really nice talent since he doesn't do anything off skill. So it basically allows him to basically pseudo tank from ranged attacks, but he still can't block, so it's a really good talent though. For mastery recommendations, I recommend skill 3 because it's his signature skill and it allows him to do some of the highest physical DPS in the game. It's basically his premier skill, like Silverash skill 3, which I'll talk about a little later. His skill 2, you can master it if you'd like. I mastered it. It's not really recommended though, because it does have good gains. It's a single target DPS skill that has a more interesting gimmick, as you can use it, and as long as he kills an enemy, he will not lose his trait buff, so his attack will stay the same as long as he kills one enemy. But it is very niche compared to his skill 3. I mean, you're never gonna need his skill 2 unless you're doing integrated strategies. And even then, I mean, it's not really worth mastering. It's still fine at level 7. So it's really up to you. I leveled it up, but it's also more useful if you want to use him in the non-skill 3 version. If you want to use him more as an active member in the squad, it has a pretty short cooldown and it's pretty easy to keep up his trait, which, other than that, it's actually pretty good. But you would want to use him in a more active role. Otherwise, it's not better than his skill 3, of course. And then skill 1, I do not recommend skill 1 leveled at all, besides level 7, because it's not interesting compared to his skill 2, and you'd only use it if you don't have him leveled up to E1. So, I mean, you can use it. It's usable, but it's very basic. He becomes a 3 block, because he has 3 block, and then he just hits them single target, but it has no gimmick, so he just attacks them. It's like if you put down like a defender that does more damage, and that's about it. But then they have to wait 30 seconds or more for his trait to recharge and for the skill to recharge, and they can't do anything, they can't block in between that at all. So I don't really recommend it, but if you would like to upgrade it, feel free. This is just the recommendation. Alright, skill 1. Oh, this is his skill 1. It's Unvoiced Anger. It's an auto recovery manual trigger, 20-second to 30-second skill, 30 seconds at Mastery 3, 20 seconds without Mastery 3. Initial SP 15, cost 30, it lasts 30 seconds, and his attacks now deal 200% attack as physical damage, defense plus 60%. Like I said before, it's a basic skill that is overshadowed by his skill 3 and skill 2. And its gains are not really that impressive. He gains some attack and defense, and that's about it. This is shown at Mastery 3, so he just gains a little bit of stuff, but that's about it. Moving on. Skill 2, Unresolved Sorrow. Auto recovery manual, trigger 20 seconds skill. Initial SP 10, cost 25, duration 20 seconds. His attack interval increases, attack range increased, attacks now deal 190% attack as physical damage twice. If an enemy has been defeated while skill is active, trait effect is not reset when skill expires. This can be manually deactivated. Skill can be halted at any time while active. Basically, he gets a little bit increase in range, not a huge amount compared to his skill 3, but it's a solid skill. He can hit twice, he does pretty good damage, and you can deactivate it, but the biggest thing is the trait effect not resetting as long as he defeats an enemy, which allows you to basically use the skill immediately. So once the SP comes back, 25 seconds, it lasts 20 seconds. You can use, as long as you defeat an enemy, he'll be at max attack, and it'll be faster than waiting 40 seconds instead. Other than that, the bottom is basically, the notes is what I basically just said. It does have good gains, some range, and you can deactivate it. Alright, now for the big skill. Skill 3, Unbrilliant Glory. Auto recovery, manual trigger, 25 to 28 seconds. Skill, initial SP 20, cost 42, duration 28 seconds, at mastery 3. His attack range is increased by a lot. His trait effect increases by 2 times, so he now has at max trait. So after he sits for 40 seconds, at max trait, he will now have a 400% damage multiplier, since instead of 200%, I believe. His trait multiplier will be minus 10 for each enemy defeated. Attacks hit 5 targets for 180% attack as physical damage. When an enemy within range is attacked by a Kazimierz operator, deal an extra 12% of Młynar's attack as true damage. Basically, in short, he gets a huge buff, he gets huge range, hits a lot of targets, but every time he defeats an enemy, he minuses the trait multiplier. So it cannot go down below 0%, I believe, for his multiplier, so it can't go below 0, I believe. So it can't go negative, but basically tons of damage, but he will do less damage the more enemies he defeats, i.e. pretty good. It's very powerful, but if you have a lot of weak enemies in between, he's gonna lower his damage, which can be a problem. Like, let's say a bunch of dogs are near the boss and you use his skill, he's gonna kill the dogs too, but every time he kills the dogs, he's gonna lower his attack. So now he may not have enough attack to hit past the defense of the boss. Not usually very often, but it can happen if there's a lot of weaker enemies. So notes, the signature skill, dispatch groups of enemies, and range. Oh, he can hit aerial enemies. I don't know why, but he can. It's cool, I guess, because aerial enemies are always a pain, like the drones and stuff, so you can see, yeah. And it will lower each time against weaker enemies. So yeah, basically what I said. So the notes are just there if you'd like to read it without, I guess, if you're not listening with audio or something. So the notes are there that you can follow along or something. I don't know, I thought they were interesting. Next, his synergies. For operators, oh yeah, let me go back real quick. His skill 3, the synergies with other Kazimierz operators is nice, but it's not usually a huge deal. The only times I've ever used it is gravel mainly. Like if you put gravel in range, she can get a few hits in and that will do extra damage. And maybe I'd say Neural the Radiant Knight, maybe second skill, because you could throw her down and then you get some extra value. So it's but it's not like something you'd build your whole team around, like let's say the Abyssal Hunters, which have huge buffs that when they're together, like Gladia gives HP regen and stuff, and yeah. But that's another video. Yeah, the synergy with operators, it also works with his unmoved talent due to the reflection properties. So any Kazimierz operator who gets attacked, whoever attacks them will take damage some true damage based on Młynar's attack due to his unmoved talent. The skill 3 we just talked about. Neural, Blemishine, and Gravel. Operators like Scotty, skill 2 and skill 3 can really help him, but I mean, they help technically everyone, so it's not exclusive to him. But of course, due to their increase in the inspiration effect, increasing the base stats, his damage will be even higher, so of course more damage is better. And Gavial the Invincible has a somewhat synergy with her skill 2, mastery 3 having a 40-second duration. So if you use her skill after he uses his skill, you can basically, by the time her skill's over, his trait will be fully charged, which will mean he's at full strength, which you can kind of like cover each other. They can basically, well, synergize. I mean, it's not really that important, but it does exist, so I figured I'd go over it. And operator criteria. Sorry if I'm rambling. This is my first time doing this, so hopefully I'll get better with the presentation later. So for operator criteria, I don't typically. I was trying to think of a way to kind of like grade. I didn't want to use tiers, so you have like the tier list. Like other people have done tier lists, and there's nothing wrong with them. I think there's a place for them. I like using them sometimes, but tier lists are kind of weird because sometimes the way this game's set up, like you do have the best option, but the game's set up in a way that you don't really need it sometimes. And sometimes the best option isn't great. Like Młynar is great if you're going against, if he can do damage, but let's say you're going against something and it takes too long for his trait to charge up, and then you don't get his skill to work when you want it, and then or the boss has extremely high defense, so they take like no damage, or something like that, and then technically he's not as good, even though he's technically one of the best meta characters. So I'm also looking at this from the perspective of a sort of, I play daily, but so I play every day, but I'm pretty casual. Like I do my medals, I farm, I upgrade people, but I don't really do anything else. I'm not doing the crazy niche nights. I'm not doing low rarity clears or low ops clears. I use whatever I can. I do watch guides sometimes because I am busy. So I'm not looking at this from the perspective of somebody who's like doing the extremely difficult challenges. I just like do the medals and farm. Like, so the way I did it was how do I pick people that I want to pull for? And I found two sort of metrics: the subjective and the objective. Subjective is, I personally like this character because really just anything. Character design, lore, artwork, voice, presence in story, faction, character, relations, neurals, style, etc. Literally anything you could think of would go in this section. Like, if you like the character, it would go in this, in my opinion. And this is perfectly fine, because this is how I mainly pull for people. Objectively, I don't need anybody anymore, because I have every basically almost every meta character. I'm missing a few, but like they're mainly limiteds that I'm missing. So like technically I don't need any class or character. The objective is more for the people that don't have the built accounts and, well, kind of want to objectively figure out if they need this character or not. That's kind of the way I see these two criterias, instead of just doing tier list of he's S plus or EX or better. I mean he is, but like, I don't know, there's only so much you can do with tier lists and like numbers, and I don't think I'm qualified enough to talk about numbers about a character, because honestly I don't use them in every single aspect of the game. I'm not like trying to test him against everything, and yeah, so I'm not gonna say he's good against like this really, really difficult like 3-op clear or something where I don't even know how to do that. So I came up with this criteria basically. So subjective, I just went over, and the notes would be Młynar is one of my favorite classes in the game. So this is my personal like subjective notes. One of my favorite operators in the game from class to his character design. He also has event appearances and his own event. I enjoy playing knightly or paladin type characters who wield longswords in other games, who enhance their combat skill with magic or arts. Basically, that's a long way of saying I like playing spellblade / paladin characters, but are mainly martial characters. Młynar may have given up his former ideals and glory, but in the distance was a man who feared neither hardship nor darkness. That was a super cheesy quote, I'm very sorry. But basically, in short, I do like his character design. He's probably my favorite E2 art in the game. I quite like his E2 art, and his skin is really good. So, I mean, there's a lot of skins that are really good, but he is probably my favorite E2 art in the game. Specifically just because I do like long swords. I mean, I've always liked long swords, like the, European medieval long swords. And he's basically a knight / paladin character. I mean, he was a knight. Kazimierz is knights and stuff, so pretty simple there. So yeah, I mean, so we have longsword, knight, and we have magic character, who is not just the physical character. He uses his arts, or basically magic, to attack with like light-based attacks, I believe, with golden light or something. So either way, it's great. There's not much more to say. I mean, I play other games and I play paladins all the time and knights, and I like melee, so that's about it. And then the objective tier. The objective tier is basically, well, objective. I want this character because I need them to fill a specific role in my squad. This is mainly people who, like, don't have a complete built account and are deciding between, should I get this character? Another thing to note is he doesn't really come online really until he's skill 3. So that means you'd have to E2 him first. So if you're worried about the cost, like, he's not, compared to certain other characters I'll go over, like Mountain, and eventually, I forgot, who's another one? Mountain is good at S1, or E1. His skill 2 works at E1, so he doesn't require a ton of resources to become basically what he wants to do. I mean, yeah, he becomes better, but like, you can use him at skill 2 at Elite 1, and he'll perform fine. So, because that's the way he's built, basically. Młynar doesn't really become great because you don't get his skill 3 until E2, so you need to wait, and then you also probably want to master it. So that's resources. Now, I know resources are not like that difficult to get, but resources as a new player, I remember the slog of getting masteries and stuff early on, because now I can master whatever I want, but like before I couldn't, and it was like, when I was trying to pick people, well, I didn't really think about it. Over time I just got stronger, but still, if you wanted to objectively, who should I invest in? This is what the objective side of this criteria is for. He is a unique branch liberator. He's a nuker, survivability, taunt. He has synergies. He's extremely high physical damage. He has AoE. but this is mainly with his skill 3, so you still need to E2 him and maybe mastery. So, but basically you will get a return on your investment if you invested him, which I recommend if you need high physical damage. But if you already have high physical damage and you don't really need it, then it's completely up to you. He is also a standard banner character, so you can get him naturally just by random chance because he's in the standard banner. You could just pull on anybody and you could get him. So he does have a learning curve due to his trait, but once you're past that, he's basically a game changer. I mean, there's a reason why he's in most like clears that are like low rarity, because I mean, or low ops or low rarity or both or something, because he's just that, as a single operator he can do a lot. So otherwise, yes, you'll get your payoff if you invest in him. So I do recommend it, but objectively still look at what you need in your teams and squads and choose if you want him or not, or if you just like his character design like I do. So I would have pulled for him. Probably would have pulled for him even if he wasn't amazing. So, but it is up to you. All right, Silverash or Młynar versus Silverash. So sometimes this doesn't really come up that often, but I figured I'd go over it because they are similar in their third skill specifically. Basically though, I think that's about it. Like their skill 3 is similar, but it's not they're as classes and units. They're used very differently. So Młynar is a unit that, as the notes basically say, he does not do anything, and he needs time to reach full strength. He can't block or attack, so he is very good for, you need to put him down earlier to then hopefully use his skill later. The faster you get him down, the more he can start charging his trait, and then he'll get stronger, basically. So he needs to stay on the field, but he's very weak early on because he doesn't get his attack until later, because you need to charge up his trait. So even if you get his skill, if you use it early, he's not going to be doing as much damage as you'd probably want him to do. His trait also rapidly decreases, so he lowers his damage. Each enemy defeated during skill 3, he lowers his damage. So, needs 40 seconds after deployment to reach full potential, but then once he reaches full potential, he can wreak havoc, basically. So, what about Silverash? Well, besides their class differences, they're both guards, but one's a liberator and one's a lord. Lords attack with ranged attacks, which are great, but they do a little less damage, basically. Silverash is a heli drop unit. A heli drop unit is basically a unit like Surtur, who's a arts guard who is very powerful with her skill 3. They're a unit you throw down and then you use their skill very quickly and then you retreat them, and that's pretty much it. They're kind of like if you have Texas Alter, that's her entire kit as an executor specialist. Same with Yado Alter. They're basically like that. You throw them down, but then you need to retreat them because they're not very effective the longer they're on the field. So kind of the opposite of Liberator. So Silverash specifically, as his skill 3, is a large AoE as well, but he is at full strength very quickly. When you deploy skill Silverash at skill 3, mastery 3, he gets his skill in like 15 seconds at mastery 3, I believe. So very quickly, and then you immediately can use his skill. And then off skill, you typically do not leave him on the field because he has a 90-second, I think, cooldown, or for SP, he has a 90 SP cost. And that takes forever if you leave him on the field. I mean, you can, but it's faster to just retreat him and then redeploy him, and then his skill will be back faster. So if you need him for that, typically. So that means he's a unit who is very impactful up front and quickly, but is not as powerful the longer he's on the field. I mean, until he gets his skill back, but that takes 90 seconds. So compared to Młynar, who takes 40, so you could, it's, yeah. And then you have to wait for the skill to be used, so it has a duration. So typically you don't use him afterwards because it's just faster to retreat him. He also does not have the weakness of the Mwynar's skill 3. He weakens himself. So Młynar's skill 3, every time he defeats an enemy, minus his attack by 10%, or he loses his trait effect by 10%. So he gets like 400% trait effect at max trait, and then when you activate skill, and then once he defeats enemies, he just lowers, each defeated enemy lowers it by 10%. So he'll go down quickly if it's weaker enemies. Silverash does not have that problem. Silverash will be at full potential when you use him. He will use his skill, and he will kill everything, and he would not lower his attack. So if it's a bunch of small enemies like dogs, if it's a bunch of big enemies, it doesn't matter. He will stay the same at full strength. So that makes him a little better at, honestly, just, well, heli dropping him into an area, using his skill, and you don't have to worry about him lowering his attack, which typically is not a huge problem for Młynar, but it can become a problem. In short, they're both fundamentally different units who fulfill unique roles within a squad, so I don't really think I think getting both of them is the best, but either way, it's up to you. I'm leaning towards Młynar, but Silverash is still really, really good. But they are different units. I don't really think they're that similar, besides them having a large range AoE skill 3. Silverash also lowers his defense with his skill 3 by like 70%, so his defense is horrible, which means if he gets attacked, he honestly dies very quickly. So you have to be careful with Silverash compared to the tankiness of Młynar. Mwynar's tankiness is quite good. Silverash on skill 3 lowers all his defense, so he takes a ton of damage. Typically he'll die if he gets hit too much compared to Mwynar's tankiness. So when deciding, just look at what you need. Młynar, extremely high physical damage. They're both physical damage, but one's, I think, more leaning. Silverash has invisibility reveal, and he has less charge time when he's at max strength, but he has a longer recharge time. Młynar has taunt and pretty good stats, and on skill he does extremely high physical damage with less of a recharge time. Alright. In conclusion, Młynar is a powerful addition to any roster, also being a mechanically unique branch who I'd like to see more of in the future with added effects such as arts or elemental damage. And trivia. His leitmotif, Ensheath, Młynar's name derives from Młynar, I don't know how to say that, which means miller in Polish. His Wadali skin means far away in the distance in Polish. His older brother and sister-in-law cameo in his Vidali skin idle animation and tap animation. And Młynar's Ian voice actor Anthony Howe voices Margit the Fell Omen in Elden Ring, among other things. And a portrait of Młynar is on the right side of Nerl the Radiant Knight's relight skin. Alright, so that was a lot. I'm sorry for how scuffed this video was. I might break this up into more parts next time when I do another one of these, and I might write a script, I'm not sure. I think I stayed on topic most of the time, but maybe I went too fast or too slow. Either way, let me know in the comments and what you want to see, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next review. The next one will probably be Read the Flame Shadow, is who I'm going to be working on. And then I'm thinking of going back and doing like Thorns, Blaze, all the older operators like Aya and stuff like that. And Silverash, of course. He'll get his own video. Either way, yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.
Wake me up. The sound of the wind in the barrens. Far too familiar. Blade whetted again for but another battle. Golden plains. A field of wheat. The path of a nomadic city. And the wake of a catastrophe. The manor's garden. The arena. And those who hand over their last coin along with their last harvest. Father, I've always tried to walk a righteous path. Father, you once told me that long swords are suitable only for valorous young knights. But the National Council's miscarriage of justice, the General Chamber of Commerce's rise to prominence, everything I've wanted to stop, my blade was useless to prevent. I couldn't remove your lesions. And with it by my side, I watched as Schnitz left. I merely became accustomed to its presence. Do I long for the old days? No. I simply cannot forget. That which I saw in the places untouched by light and could do nothing about.